What's going on, everyone? So a lot of you have been asking for this video for the past week and a half, 2 weeks now, and that is me playing Ray Blue. However, for those of you that have played Ray Blue, you might have found one thing, and that is this deck is exceptional against one specific archetype, and that is any aggro decks. Any sort of aggro decks really struggle because of how much you have to kind of deal with not only their early threats, but also just a lot of value in your build, a lot of sentinels being tossed around, and a lot of restore. And so I figured, why not modify Ray Blue a little bit and go hunting for those aggro players like Sabine Green, similar to what we did with the video on hunting control players with the modified yellow Tarkin. And that's what we're going to be doing today with Ray Blue. So before we get started, big thank you to my patrons over on Patreon, chatting, going ahead and playing some games with me over the weekends, and all manner of other things, as well as I have a TCG player link in the description down below. Be sure to use it for any of your card needs. Let's talk some Ray Blue. So this deck has kind of been in the circle, been in the community, I believe since KTOD, like 2.5, 3 weeks ago, I want to say. I can't remember exactly. They made a video, they talked about the deck, saying that it's an excellent deck. And ever since then, everyone has wanted me to play Ray Blue. I have been playing Ray Blue in the shadows, and one thing that's, again, really noticeable when you start playing Ray Blue is any sort of deck that's really looking to get in some damage, aggro you out so where you can't really, I guess you could say, play out your cards. This deck just puts a complete stop to it. You have so many restore options. All your units get really big really quickly with Ray, especially the fact that you have restore on low powered units that eventually can actually start to trade with their units. You have quite a few different sentinels, which can be pretty powerful, especially on the 3 resource slot. You have just a ton of value, ton of removal, and a ton of ways to heal, even outside of restore, period. All of that kind of adds up to be a really excellent deck against aggro. Now, most of the stuff that you'll see here is pretty standard in Ray Blue. Once you start building a Ray Blue list, you'll notice, hey, wow, there's some really good cards. Like Moisture Farmer in the deck is a 1/5 on turn 1 with Restore 2. That just seems pretty good in Ray. Or R2 is a 2/5 on turn 1 with Ray Blue. The modifications that I personally have made really come down to things like Devotion and some changing of a few of the numbers. Devotion is one of the upgrades that I was really looking to play because one of the cards we do play in Ray Blue is Razor Crest. So a little bit of synergy there, but also this is just an exceptional card. It goes on any unit. It's not just ground or space units because we do have space and ground units. We really want, if we do have an upgrade, to have the ability to play it on anything. And if you get this down on like an Arc 170, you put an experience token, you put a devotion on an Arc 170, suddenly, not only is it actually closing out the game pretty quickly, but it's restoring you a ton of HP over the course of a game. Other cards that are really excellent that you might not see normally in vigilance-based decks, because this is a double vigilance deck. We have, well, vigilance at 4 cost. We have Sugi, who's a pretty fun one. It's a 4/6 for 2 for double vigilance, 4 resources. Anytime an enemy unit is upgraded, you get Sentinel for Sugi. There's a lot of random upgrades that are passed around, so this has Sentinel a good portion of the time. And as I said, we have a lot of the familiar things you're used to in Ray: Yodas, Concordant Interceptors, Village Protectors, Kanans. A couple copies of Forces with me, really excellent with Kanan and Yoda, knock out some early threats, keep a healer on the board for you, and backed up by a lot of removal and a decent late game with Obi-Wan, Luke's, a Redemption, and a Chewbacca. Another card I explicitly want to mention is Queel. This card is absolutely absurd in any sort of mono vigilance deck because it's just attack draw card while also being a 2/3 body, while also having Restore 1. Normally, I wouldn't say draw a card is insane, but in a deck that actually benefits from kind of having a little bit of choice, drawing into some of the more important cards like Vigilance, for example, and really getting the specific answers to aggro while keeping you in the game by restoring, it is just absolutely amazing. So we're going to be diving in, we're going to be battling against people, and we are really diving in and hoping to find some aggro players so we can make their day a little bit, well, a little bit troublesome, let's say. But the deck is still functional against a lot of their decks out there. So we're not going to really hunt them down. We're just going to see, hopefully, people are playing some aggro tonight. Let's dive into it. Diving into game one against Double Green Palpatine, probably one of the most difficult matches for matchups for this deck, I'd say. Double Green Palpatine tends to outvalue very quickly as we get into the mid game, and our restore isn't exceptionally relevant, but we're going to see what we can do. I went ahead and resourced the Moisture Farmer and Devotion. Both these cards are kind of mediocre in this matchup, and we're hoping we can get in some pretty solid damage into the space arena, trying to avoid some ground sentinels that we are expecting to see. Drawing into Fel the Dragon and Chewbacca, both. Chewbacca can be good later on in the game, but we're going to put it in the resource pile because there's a good chance we'll get to 10 resources in this game anyways, or 11 resources in this game anyways. And if we are at that point, we've probably lost, but maybe Chewbacca will come into play. I'd rather keep the Fel the Dragon because they can deploy some really beefy threats very quickly. Here, we're probably going to get down to Yoda, but, I mean, there is something to be said about just giving an experience token at Arc 170 and hoping you can beat down. Just seems like a very, very poor use of your resources, however, so I'm going to go ahead and play out the Yoda. And then we will probably follow that up with the Kanan, but we will have to find out. So I'm going to go ahead and get down a TIE Vanguard, which is a little bit surprising. Normally, you don't see TIE Vanguard all that often in the Double Green Palpatine deck. Let's see, they're going to go and attack in. Let's see what they decide to choose. They decide to hit the Yoda. Interesting. Okay, so there's the Forces with me. That is an excellent card. It's going to give 2 experience tokens. It's going to allow us to get a shield token. We can then kill the Piet, or we can just hit their base. And I think what I want to do here is actually just Forces with me and kill their Piet. Get rid of that shield token and just hit their Piet and kill it. I could hit their base, but there's a good chance that they'll have some sort of official synergy. Emperor's Royal Guard's very common. And if we have Piet on the battlefield, let's say they go resupply this turn, then we are going to be able to be ambushed by any sort of vehicle coming up very quickly. Here, they're going to go and defeat Super Laser Technician, draw a card, kill my Arc 170. Most likely, I would be very surprised if they did not do that. Oh, okay. They, well, did not do that. So pretty surprised on that one. Here, I'm going to go ahead and resource probably just the Kanan. I don't actually think we're going to be going into the ground arena all that much more. And I'm going to immediately just put an experience token on my Arc 170. That puts it out of range of the Super Laser Technician's defeat with Emperor Palpatine. And now we can just continue to get in some damage. And we are going to be doing so. Let's go ahead and just attack in for 4 here. And then we'll attack in for another 3. But they are getting very, very close to being able to... Oh, wow. They Scanning Officer, which ended up hitting the Chewbacca out of our resource pile and exhausted one of our resources. We no longer can play Razor Crest. Kind of a fun little interaction there. But we're going to be able to play the Arc 170 as a follow-up regardless. So they have a lot of units here, lots of things going on, but I think we're just going straight up into space here over and over and over again. They're going to claim initiative. We're going to pass. We got ourselves another Forces with me, a Devotion. Rivals Fall, Fel the Dragon. I don't think Rivals Fall is really going to do all that many favors, but I also don't think that the Devotion will be doing all that many favors. Remember, Forces with me can give 2 experience tokens to any unit, and all we have to do is just control a Force unit. We don't really have to do anything else in order to get some value there. So here, let's just go ahead and attack in with Yoda. I could give it an experience, or give it a couple experience tokens and give it a shield token and all this stuff, but that really doesn't do a whole lot for me. Why? Because they could just go ahead and steal it with the Emperor Palpatine flip, which I'm guessing they're going to be doing here, but we will find out. Let's just go ahead and I think we want to play the Forces with me on our array. So let's just go ahead and give an experience token over to the Arc 170. Let's see if they decide to defeat a unit. And go ahead and flip Palpatine? I don't think so, but it's possible. It's very possible. Remember, Rook is pretty solid, but it can only defeat non-leader units while dealing combat damage. So that is a very, very important factor. Okay, they're going to hit my restored arc, which is totally fine. We're going to attack in for 3. They're going to steal one of them. I don't know if that was really worthwhile for them. I think here I'll just flip. I'll flip Rey and then just get in for some damage. They're probably going to attack. Wow, they didn't attack with Emperor Palpatine. A little bit surprised on that. Well, let's forces with me and attack in. And again, that's just going to give us a shield token. It's also just going to put them under a decent amount of pressure. Because now, basically, by them dealing a damage to my other Arc 170, yes, they stole it. It didn't really feel necessary. But the more important part is, right now, their board cannot kill Rey. And more importantly, we have a space unit, which is going to be pretty massive as well. Okay, so they ended up stealing with Traitorous. We're just going to attack in for 4. And they're going to do some nonsense over there. I think what I want to do is just go ahead and... Do I want to Rivals Fall? I could take initiative here. I'm trying to think of what Emperor Palpatine could have. In terms of healing, they'll have 1 extra HP here, which will put them down to 27. There's a very good chance that they'll have an official or a Sentinel here. I think the best play here is just to play out a Razor Crest. However, if they attack it with the Restored Arc, then they could defeat like Rook to go ahead and deal the last point. So I think we just go with Razor Crest. And if they do attack the Razor Crest, then we know they're going to go with the Emperor Palpatine. And then we can go ahead and play the Concord Dawn Interceptors afterwards. I could have led with Concord Dawn Interceptors, but that puts us in a little bit of a precarious situation as the Restored Arc. Yeah, so they're going to do exactly what I thought, which was, hey, I'm going to attack in. I'm going to defeat a unit with Emperor Palpatine, try to finish off the Razor Crest. And I know, if I took initiative there is a possibility we could have just won. However, the way my opponent is playing this, I'm thinking that they have a Sentinel unit to play to prevent Rey from kind of closing out the game. So they're going to try to attack. Rook doesn't kill Rey. There is also a possibility, again, that my opponent doesn't remember that Rook can't one-shot leaders. And the way they played it was with that expectation, which it kind of seems like it is. But again, there's a lot of Sentinels in Palp Green, so I'm trying to give myself the best position to be winning. Oh, and they're undoing their last action. It's clear, to me at least, that they did not remember that they could only kill leaders here. Yep, see, they're trying to put the Darksaber on Emperor Palpatine. So to kill my Rey here, it looks like, is what the goal was. They're reverting an entire turn. Okay. That's a little bit of a scummy move, but okay. So they're gonna, I don't even know what they're doing here now. I mean, this is just sometimes, guys, sometimes like Carabas, this is what happens. They're gonna start with a Traitorous. Sure, you got it, opponent. We're gonna hit in for 4. They're gonna attack Rey. We are going to play now. We are going to change what we're going to do because we know they're trying to Darksaber Palpatine. So let's play around this, okay? Let's just go ahead and Rivals Fall the Emperor Palpatine this time. They're going to try to change what they're going to do. Sure, we'll change what we're going to do. We should have won, is my guess, because our opponent just reverted an entire turn in order to do what they're trying to do. But in this situation, if they have an Emperor's Royal Guard, they can't really do anything, and it looks like we ended up winning anyways. I could have Rivals Falled the Emperor Palpatine last turn as well, but I believe they started with the Traitorous yet again, and if we had went that direction, Rivals Falling the Emperor Palpatine, it's very possible they could have had all manner of different things to deal with Rey. So there's so many different ways we could have played this, but Our opponent just not remembering that rook can kill the leader and then reverting an entire turn and then trying to change their plays because of it. That's there you go. Good game, first game. Let's move on to the next one. Moving on to our next matchup, and well, not an aggro, but Han Blue. Nice, good old matchup. Another one that's a little bit tougher for Ray Blue. Not impossible by any means. I actually think double green Palpatine tends to be a little bit weaker, or a weaker of a matchup for us, but let's go to mulligan this. We didn't really have a great starting hand. This is a lot better. Queel on turn 1 in this matchup is quite excellent, and I will probably just resource a Razor Crest and probably an Arc 170, because we are planning on going Queel on turn 1. So let's go Queel on turn 1. And mind you, this Queel will draw you a card every single time as long as you're not playing like Tech in your deck, for example. They got Concord Dawn Interceptors, but that's not crazy. They've got a, what is this? K2? Okay, sure. Let's just go ahead and attack into their base with Queel. We draw ourselves an Arc 170, and we're going to get down a Village Protectors, which is just absolutely amazing against K2. Draw ourselves a Luke, which looks pretty good as well. We can put down our Concord Dawn Interceptors if we want. I think I'm just going to resource this Restored Arc. They're just playing above curve. There's a Poe Dameron this time. And I think what we'll do is go ahead and attack into their base here real quick. See what we draw. I think afterwards, I am interested in playing a second Village Protectors. No, I think I'll actually kill K2. And so now what this causes, they're going to make us discard. Sure. What this ends up doing is we will be able to play out a Kanan, which will kill the Poe Dameron. And when they attack with Poe Dameron, they can discard a card to deal 2, but they're not going to actually be able to get through this Village Protectors to hit something more important, which is going to be a lot more relevant. So we're just going to get down a Kanan here. And we're actually starting off pretty nicely. They really haven't done any damage. Them playing a Concord Dawn Interceptors on turn 1 is really quite weak. So totally okay with that. Let's see what they end up attacking. So they're just going to attack in. Sure, makes a lot of sense. Let's just go ahead and attack into their base and see what we draw. Another Arc 170. Okay. Here, I think I'm interested in going Village Protectors plus R2. They go Takedown. Okay, let's go R2. Fell the Dragon looks like a pretty good card in this matchup, so we're going to keep that on top. We're going to go ahead and give an experience token to R2 here. Give another option to kill out Poe Dameron. They're going to ready up a Han, and we're going to play a second Village Protectors. So I'm stalling on the Village Protectors because I'm interested to see what my opponent's playing every single turn. They're going to claim initiative. My guess is that what they're trying to do is attack in with Poe Dameron, discard a card to defeat a shield so that they can trade with the Village Protectors potentially. Well, they're going to Carabas. They're going to take out Queel, huh? Okay, that makes our decision pretty simple, actually, because we're just going to take out Poe Dameron with the Village Protectors. And Carabas, yeah, like it ended up doing some work, but it's not like crazy strong. Okay, they've got themselves a Poe Dameron, and I think here I'm going to put an experience token on my Village Protectors just in case Han decides to hit it. I'm gonna fell the drag on the Poe Dameron, and then I will go ahead and flip Ray, and then attack. Get an experience token on R2 to then kill Han and then kill the Poe Dameron. So it's kill Han. Ooh, I will top the Rival's Fall and then fell the dragon and then pass. Pretty nice sequence of events there. We have removed all their prominent threats. We've gotten rid of the Han and, well, hopefully we're able to do some work here. They have a Chewbacca here. Seems pretty good. We can go ahead and give -6/-6 to the Chewbacca, which I think I like. We'll just go ahead and play a Luke and give -6/-6 and then finish it off with the Rey. May not look like a crazy strong play, but we get rid of the Chewbacca. We get to deploy Luke to the battlefield. I think I prefer that over going something like Rival's Fall here. So Takedown, not a very strong in this card in this matchup, generally speaking. It can be good because they can deploy like Luke early and then it takes 2 damage, for example. But if your opponent's playing around that, then takedown can get a lot worse. I much prefer Fell the Dragons, Rivals Falls, things like that in this particular matchup. But we do have to be a little bit careful because they could have a Crate Dragon here. However, that is where Rivals Fall comes into play because they play Crate Dragon here. We Rivals Fall it and we win the game potentially. But our opponent disconnected. Wow. You know, sometimes care best. And I love Carabas just because I get to play Star Wars Unlimited online, like just Star Wars Unlimited anywhere. But sometimes you get games like the first one and the second one where people are restarting or they're just disconnecting. That was a pretty close game, I will say, or interesting game. I actually don't think it was necessarily pretty close. The kind of sequence of events my opponent went for, the fact that they had a Concord Dawn Interceptors on turn 1 really messed up what they wanted to do. And the fact that we had Queel on turn 1, that is one of the most important cards in this matchup or any red matchup, typically, because a lot of people rely on discard a lot. And Queel just makes that completely useless, like completely useless. You saw when they made us discard a card, we're like, okay, whatever. Granted, the 3 damage wouldn't have mattered a ton because we restored way more than they dealt to us. But anyways, that was a good second game. On to the next. Let's hopefully we can find some aggro players today, huh? Into another matchup, and it's a Han Blue again. But hey, you know what? That's what we signed up for. We're going to be bullying this. It's not a terrible hand, but I'm really looking for, as I said earlier, the Queel is an excellent one. We drew ourselves a lot of expensive stuff. And I like some of the expensive stuff here. I'm going to keep Queel, obviously, try to get down on turn 1. But I'm going to resource the extra R2 and the Obi-Wan because it's one of the weaker options here early on in the game. They're going to go turn 1 red 3. And that is, I will say, definitely a scarier card than the Concord Dawn Interceptors that we saw earlier. But we do have a Concord Dawn Interceptors of our own, which is going to be quite excellent as well. Let's go ahead and play that Concord Dawn Interceptors. And now if they would like to kill Queel with Kanan and get some value there, it's okay, because we kind of made up for that. They can put a shield token on red 3, which it looks like that's what they're going to do. And red 3 doesn't actually kill the Concord Dawn Interceptor, so I'm not 100% on that play, but hey, you know, that sometimes happens. I'm okay with trading red 3 for the Concord Dawn Interceptor, so I'm just going to immediately get in an attack, see if I can draw a card. Looks like I can draw a card, and we're going to play a Kanan. So they've got a little bit of value with their Kanan, kind of getting rid of my Queel for a little bit of value, but we've gotten a ton of value with our Concord Dawn Interceptors here in space. They can go ahead and sacrifice their red 3. We're claiming initiative here immediately. And the main reason for that is, well, we've got a forces with me, and we want to kill off their Ray. And we're going to heal a little bit as well, even though they haven't really done any damage to us. So we're going to kill off the Ray so they can't heal up their Kanan. They can go ahead and attack our Kanan. We can go ahead and give an experience token over to our Concord Dawn Interceptors. It's not like it matters a lot because they're probably just going to kill it, as I said. But now we have the Kanan on the battlefield. Looks like they're going to ready up a Cassian, and they're going to kill my Kanan. So now we are even on the board, but they are 25 HP base, and we're a 30 HP base. So we have some potential here. So there's an Obi-Wan that we really do want to try to get down here. I'm going to resource that Restored Arc. And I think what I want to do is just... They could have a Luke. That's like the most likely thing for them to have here. So I think I'm just going to get down Rey first. Ah, see, there's the Luke. So now we play Obi-Wan. So the reason I did it in this sequence is because I was expecting them to want to play Luke. And now what we get to do is kind of just, well, not let them attack in with Hans. Because if we played out Obi-Wan, they may have wanted to attack first and then kill it with Luke. I'm not sure. They're going to defeat my Rey. Okay. That is totally fine. We are going to Luke their Luke. And we are in a pretty good spot now. Yes, they have their leader, but we have kind of a really powerful force synergy going on. We've drawn ourselves a secondary Luke, getting rid of a lot of these moisture farmers. Double vigilance could come into play here later on in the game. What we could do is, if they happen to have like a Crate Dragon, which again, that's one of those cards that's like super scary in these matchups, we do have an answer, which is attack plus takedown, or we just Forces with Me on the Luke to just one-shot it, which is the best answer. Forces with Me, if you happen to have any Force unit on the battlefield, is just one of the most absurd cards. It is just like a supercharged... Oh, they're going to go ahead and Luke our Obi-Wan. But that's okay, because I think I'll just kill off their Han Solo. And then I think I'll shield token the Obi-Wan and mill them, and then play a Sugi afterwards. So let's go ahead and attack in for one. I'm going to Vigilance. I'm going to mill shield the Obi-Wan, and then I'm going to just play a Sugi. Use up all of our resources, kind of get in some value there. I like the takedown. I think I'm going to resource. What do we have in our discard pile? No upgrades. I think Razor Crest looks pretty weak here. I want to keep around the Luke just in case, you know, they could play like a Chewbacca here, kill my Luke, for example. And if they do that, guess what we can do? We can Luke their Luke. Although, let me just see if that's actually what I want to do this turn. Yeah, I think Luking their Luke is just pretty solid, right? They're going to get a Chewbacca down. Sure, it can't really do anything. They can attack if they want to, which I think doesn't make a lot of sense, because if they attack, they can't remove the shield token or anything like that, and it saves them less HP. So we just attack both, can't give an experience token anything, and we pass the turn. Fel the Dragon looks really nice here, as if they play anything that's big, we get to kill it, or if they attack it with the Chewbacca, we get to kill it with Fel the Dragon. But I think we're in a very good spot at this point in the game. Let's just go ahead and attack in with Obi-Wan. They've got a Fel the Dragon of their own. And I'm kind of curious as to where this game's going to go, because they got 6 resources here. They could play another Luke, potentially. They've already gone through 2 Lukes of their own. Let's go ahead and attack in with the Sugi here. I could have given a shield token and attacked in the Chewbacca for 6 points of damage, but I'm kind of interested just to attack their base. So they're going to defeat a unit. They're going to defeat the Sugi here, which is kind of interesting. And I think I'm just going to Fel the Dragon, the Chewbacca, and then follow that up with a Kanan. Still have multiple threats on the board, and we get rid of all their threats, essentially. Queel looks decent here. Like, I want to keep Queel around just in case all my units die. It is a potentially powerful play to make. Oh, and they play an Avenger here, huh? So we get to defeat, what, Obi-Wan? Defeat Obi-Wan, and then we can give 2 experience to this, and then 2 more, which is 8, and that's exactly lethal. So now he Forces with me and end the game. GG. So pretty interesting there. A little bit of a different style of Han Blue than what you're typically used to. The little bit of a cheeky 11 resource Avenger there was pretty sweet, but we ended up getting there. And, well, so far, Ray Blue, guys, performing well. And we haven't even fought any aggro matchups, which is exactly what I'm looking for. But hey, that's okay. Oh, they said love your YouTube channel. Thank you. That was a sweet game, by the way. Very close game. I think the kind of key, the very key thing in these matchups tends to be who plays Luke first, and that person is usually at a disadvantage, because if you have to play a Luke to catch up on the board, it's really unfortunate, simply for the fact that the other opponent can follow up with a Luke of their own, shrink your Luke, and then finish it off without taking any damage. Another thing to note is Rey is generally a little bit more powerful than Han in these matchups, in terms of just straight up unit value. Not the effect. The effect for Han, I think, is a little bit more power, or a decent chunk more powerful. But because they Rivals Falled my Rey, I actually don't think Rey is that big of a threat. Like, yes, the Restore 3 is annoying, but Rivals Falling something like a Luke or a Obi-Wan, I think, is really, really going to be where you're using it. Although I don't even think Rivals Fall is particularly good against my deck. Maybe if they drew the Avenger a little bit sooner, or they drew their 3rd Luke or something like that, maybe they would have had a chance. But overall, pretty close game. I don't think our opponents really made any mistakes. It was just kind of, how the game shaped up. But on to the next one. All right, into the next matchup, we got ourselves, Grand Inquisitor Green? This might be our first aggro matchup of the day. And look at that. We got ourselves a pretty nice hand. I'm going to go and resource this Fell the Dragon and the Luke. Actually, I think I should have resourced the forces with me instead of the Luke, because I think Luke could potentially do some major work. But I don't know if it really matters all that much, because Quill's going to come down on turn 1. There's a possibility that our opponent goes in and plays something, readies it, kills Quill immediately. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, because Quill can be a little bit of an oppressive card in this deck. I think Quill is kind of the unsung hero of Ray Blue. I think this card is exceptionally powerful. We draw ourselves a Vigilance and a Takedown. I'm actually going to resource probably the Devotion. I'm just going to get in for some damage. Wolf is interesting. I'm just going to attack to draw a card, but Wolf is going to prevent some healing, which is kind of fun. A little bit of a counter to what we're trying to do, but it's not really that big of a deal. Looks like they're going to resupply. I am going to go ahead and Concord Dawn Interceptors. Don't know if it's really going to be relevant in this matchup. Usually Grand Inquisitor doesn't actually play that many space units, so I don't think a Sentinel in space is really going to matter that much. Gonna go and resource this Moisture Farmer. I don't think it's going to be all that relevant. We do have that Vigilance, we do have Takedown, and we do have Kanan and the forces with me. We have a lot of different options, but I want to get in with the damage with Quill to guarantee that heal and to guarantee that draw. And it still trades with Wolf at the current moment, so I'm not too worried about that. If they're using ECL on Quill, that's also totally fine. They have 5 resources, though, so let's see what they've got. They got a Phase 3 Dark Trooper, huh? Okay. I am just going to get down to Kanan, because Kanan's going to really help us heal a little bit. And now their ECL is gone, which is a really, really good sign for us, and they're going to get an attack in with Wolf. Ooh, and they do have a space unit, so the Concord Dawn Interceptors is going to get in a decent amount of value. We get ourselves a Village Protector double draw, double Village Protectors there. Remember, Wolf has Saboteur, and so what I'm going to do here is actually just forces with me the Kanan, because if I were to attack the Phase 3 Dark Trooper, yes, he can just attack in with Wolf to kill my Kanan, past like Village Protectors, for example, and this just guarantees us a little bit of heal, with the 2 heal off 7 Sister discarding, as well as remaining a massive body on the battlefield. And then we can go ahead and give an experience token to the Concord Dawn Interceptors and try to knock out this TIE Silencer, but we will see about that one. We have the Ray deploy next turn, which is going to allow us to heal up a ton, but who knows what they're going to decide to do here. My guess, they're just going to drop in a Grand Inquisitor, maybe pump it up with who knows what they're going to play, like a Fallen Lightsaber, and then ready up their Wolf and attack in for a decent chunk. But that's okay, because if they do end up trying to attack Kanan, there's the Fallen Lightsaber, then we will be able to Vigilance away the Grand Inquisitor. And there's going to be the Phase 3 Dark Trooper, which, well, it's going to back up the Grand Inquisitor, and they're going to probably ready up, well, my guess is, because Phase 3 Dark Trooper is combat damage, is just to ready up the Wolf. Oh, they're going to ready up the Phase 3 Dark Trooper. Oh, they're going to ignore me. Okay. That's totally a fair kind of option to make. Let's go and resource that Yoda. And I think I'm going to start off by just playing a Village Protectors, because the only thing that could actually get around this is Wolf. They can attack and defeat the Village Protectors through the shield, but then we just play another Village Protectors. And I know this prevents us from healing if they get an attack in with Wolf, but I think that's going to be a pretty important factor in terms of staying alive, because if I attack with Kanan to start us off, then they can attack in with the Grand Inquisitor, and that's just pretty brutal. So we're going to Darksaber up the Phase 3 Dark Trooper, and I think what I want to do is just kill it with Kanan. Like, I think I'm just going to attack in and kill the Phase 3 Dark Trooper with Kanan. Get in the heal while we can before Wolf attacks, and that's going to be a second Grand Inquisitor. Second Fallen Lightsaber. Okay. Let's just go ahead and deploy a Ray. What a powerful, powerful hand for my opponent. Wow, that is pretty good. So they're going to attack in. I'm not sure why they decided to do it this way, as they can just ignore the Sentinel because Wolf has Saboteur. I wonder if they didn't realize that, but we're going to claim initiative here. And I think what I want to do is, Fell the Dragon is non-leader units, by the way. I think what I want to do is just Vigilance plus Village Protectors here. So Vigilance will defeat heal. And then we'll just get down a second second Village Protectors? Yeah, second Village Protectors. I know that they could still go ahead and kind of get through it with Grand Inquisitor because of the initial damage. But that puts it in range of takedown, which is pretty nice. And yes, they get to ready up the punishing one, but it's just going to trade with the Concord Dawn Interceptor, so I don't really care about that either. And now we're in a really good spot because now we're starting to control the game a little bit. Well, where did Grand Inquisitor go? What the heck? Grand Inquisitor, hello? Where did you go, little buddy? I don't know. But I'm going to kill their Grand Inquisitor. I assume it's dead. That's what I'm going to assume. Takedown. I think what I want to do here is just pass and see what they've got. If they have another play here to make. They can't ready up Grand Inquisitor at all. Or Fifth Brother at all. Because Grand Inquisitor was just defeated. So they're going to go ahead and pass after I pass. Which is totally fine. We're going to resource this R2. Because I just want more resources. And I'd rather keep all the other cards in my hand. And we'll see if Fifth Brother decides to actually deal a damage to himself. Because if he does, I will just play a Luke and kill it. So I'm going to do that. Play a Luke, kill it. Get some value there. Could have played a Chewbacca to kill it, but I was hoping to get down the Luke because I want that Restore 3. There's a Darth Vader. Darth Vader is a great card. Let's see what they pull off the top. I'm trying to figure out what they would pull to make it really scary. I suppose any unit just allows them to kill Luke because they can ready it with the Grand Inquisitor and then kill the Luke. I think in this spot, I will just play a Chewbacca on the following turn. They said my leader disappeared, lol. So I think they tried to go ahead and attack my Luke with Phase 3 Dark Trooper. I'm not sure how much it would have mattered. What I'll do here is just start off by attacking the Phase 3 Dark Trooper. It's not at all, in this situation, what I'd want to do. But we're just going to go ahead and do it because that's what they probably would have done last turn. And so this kind of makes it a little bit more fair, at least in my opinion. Let's go Chewbacca, defeat the Darth Vader. So I think that was pretty fair. Our opponent ended up getting in more damage than I would have allowed them to get in had they actually been able to ready up a leader. Because I would have played a Chewbacca immediately and killed Darth Vader. It's not even necessarily true that they would have done exactly that. But I'm just assuming, you know. Let's go ahead and kill the Fifth Brother. I think at this spot, we can actually play for just the massive control long game. Because we have the Vigilance in hand, so we can mill 6 cards from them, which is really, really bad. Okay, they're going to do nothing, kind of. So I think what we want to do is mill heal. And we would like to play probably just an Obi-Wan and then pass. And milling here is pretty nice simply because our opponent's running out of deck. And they really only have one avenue to win, and that's to kind of try to fight through all my units. So by milling, it speeds up the kind of clock, while also not kind of walking into anything. So they think that's game, no other moves. I'm not sure how much the leader disappearing matters, because I take down Grand Inquisitor immediately. And obviously you couldn't use it that turn. It was that one turn where they deployed the Darth Vader. They would have readied up Phase 3. Let's say they would have done what I would have done, which is ready up Phase 3 Dark Trooper, attack into Luke. They could have done something different based on their hand. They read up Phase 3 Dark Trooper. And they kill the Luke. We take initiative. What we do is play Chewbacca, kill their Darth Vader. So they actually do 5 less damage to us, which is kind of interesting. But I don't know. Maybe Grand Inquisitor, they didn't do anything last turn because they didn't have Grand Inquisitor, so. Lots of appreciation for the YouTube today, guys. I appreciate it. I love coming and playing some Caravas and seeing all the community members playing the games. I think it's pretty sweet and all, but let's just go ahead and ignore this wolf and start attacking into their base. At this point, I don't really see anything that my opponent can really do. They're going to claim initiative. We'll play a redemption. I'm not even going to heal anything, and I'll just play like Village Protectors R2. We can keep an Obi-Wan on top. It doesn't really matter. Drew 2 Obi-Wans, sure, it doesn't matter. The game is over at this point. Attack my redemption, hit in for 6 with Chewbacca, and they're gonna kill my Village Protectors or whatnot, and that's gonna be the game. So GG. I think there was one turn there that was a little bit interesting. They had the Fallen Lightsaber, which makes sense because they can attack you with Grand Inquisitor to deal 1 damage to remove the shield and then kill the what's it called? The Village Protectors. Honestly, the way I would have gone about it, it is a little bit risky because their opponent has I have Rivals Fall in my deck, most likely is what my opponent's thinking. Is just double up on Fallen Lightsaber on Grand Inquisitor because you get the double 1 damage trigger, which is pretty powerful in a lot of different scenarios, but also it gets it out of range of Takedown, which is another popular removal card that I'm playing in my deck, and more often than not, I'll be playing more Takedowns than I will Rivals Fall. But it's not necessarily something that would have mattered anyways, just because of how the game played out. But overall, pretty sweet game. Our opponent ended up getting a nice early start going. They had the Darksaber, which is a pretty sweet card. I like what was going on. On to the next one. On to the next game, and we got ourselves a match against Kira Blue. I'm actually going to resource one of the Fell of the Dragons and the Concord Dawn Interceptors. I ended up keeping my hand as R2 actually ends up being a pretty good card in this matchup because there's often times where they'll go like Hilo Bond Enforcer or whatnot on turn 1. And I think we'll bottom the Concord Dawn Interceptors, honestly. Even though we may not have a turn 2 play, I'm okay with that because we could just give an experience token over to R2 and that's totally fine. But yeah, they go Hilo Bond Enforcer quite frequently. You know, a lot of other turn 1 plays like Pike Sentinel that could really do some major work against us. So this is totally fine. Village Protectors, Redemption. I don't think Redemption is very good in this matchup. It's like very big. The heal doesn't really matter, or very expensive for like not a lot of power. Very likely they'll just go Power of the Darksaber based on them just taking initiative. But hey, look at that. They're going to go ahead and play a resupply. And we have a Devotion on top. Let's bottom that. I know we said we're hunting aggro decks, guys. But hey, everyone wants to play the mid-range Han Blues of the world right now, which is totally fine because that's the best deck in the format. And we got like Kira Greens, which is like one of the best decks in the format. And what else do we play against? I forgot at this point. Who even cares? You know, there's just so many different decks in the format now. But they're up to 5 resources. They could have a lot of different things here on this turn. We don't have a force unit, so Forces with Me is not going to give a shield token. But remember, we can still go ahead and get a any sort of, what's it called, 2 experience tokens on our units. So that can be pretty strong. They're going to go Kira. We're just going to go take down on Kira. They're looking to kill my R2 to go ahead and power up their Kira, which is one of the reasons why I decided to just attack with R2 here, because they were looking to kind of power up their Kira and just get in for a ton of damage. Kind of a weird game a little bit here. They're going to go Vigilance, heal, mill, defeat. Okay, so they're going to mill. What do they mill? Village Protectors, Covert Strand, Kanan. Nothing like too relevant. Let's go Arc 170 and put an experience token on it. As I said, this matchup's a little bit interesting in that we're both kind of, well, I am definitely more of a soft control deck and so are they. So we are both kind of stalling out the game, getting more value options in the game and doing things like that. So milling me out is a very realistic plan in the long run of the game. We have an Arc 170. Probably we'll just go ahead and get Takedown or Power the Dark-Sided or whatever. Oh, they played a Black Sun Starfighter, so we'll just attack it. That's kind of like a free card for us, which is pretty nice. I think what I'll do is play a Yoda here, put an experience token on it, and then attack into their base and get another experience token. They're going to defeat. I'm surprised they decided to defeat here. Maybe they're building up to Super Laser Blast. I'm not going to flip Ray since, you know, that's very, very possible. Got ourselves double Fell the Dragon, which looks kind of mediocre unless they play like an Avenger. So I'll keep one around. I suppose I'm not really winning the mill game right now, but if we end up drawing more Vigilances than they do, then that can be pretty relevant for us. Let's just go ahead and defeat the Yoda and make myself draw a card. Let's just go ahead and... Who do I want to... I can Yoda and trade... Or Luke. I can trade Arc 170 and Luke away the Avenger. Or I could just play Fell the Dragon and nothing else. I think I want to Luke here. Shrink the Avenger and then just trade the Arc 170 for Avenger here. This allows me to get Luke down. Yes, I know it can be Power of the Dark Side, it can be Fell the Dragon. There's so many ways to deal with it. The other option I had is just to Fell the Dragon and then attack in with the Arc 170, which is pretty weak as well. But I get to save my Ray flip for now and see what we're going to be doing later on in the game. They could have a Super Laser Blast. They Power the Dark Sided. Completely reasonable here. Let's just go ahead and play an R2. Forces with me. Not really excited about that. I really want a unit or a Vigilance here is what I'm looking for. To start milling away all their cards. Second Power of the Dark Side used, and we do kind of want to keep track of those because... okay, that was the third Power of the Dark Side used, so that's pretty relevant. Let's go ahead and get down a Restored Arc. And then we get to go ahead and give an experience token over here. We're going to Vigilance. We're going to Shield and Mill. And what do we hit? Super Laser Blast, Fell the Dragon. I'm still not going to flip Ray. This Restored Arc, probably going to die, but that's okay. I think I'm not going to resource anything here. Just keep the Rivals Fall and Obi-Wan and Fell the Dragon as options. They kind of are looking for a takedown because Fell the Dragon can't quite kill the Restored Arc. They don't really want to be Super Laser Blasting just the Restored Arc. Quill's a little bit interesting. That's a Snoke, huh? Well, that could be Fell the Dragon. So let's Fell the Dragon here. And I know I could have put an experience token on the Restored Arc, but I'm looking to put it on the Quill here. So we're going to attack it with this Restored Arc. Play the Quill. Put an experience token on the Quill. And they can Super Laser Blast me. That's fine. That's a Chewbacca, Moisture Farmer. I'll resource the Moisture Farmer just in case we want to play the Chewbacca this turn. Palpatine's Return. They're going to get back a Snoke, huh? Okay. So now we will go ahead and put an experience token on the, I think, Restored Arc before we play the Rivals Fall. So now we Rivals Fall the Supreme Leader Snoke. And they can give an experience token or a shield token. We're going to attack in with Restored Arc. Attack in with Quill. Draw a card. And I guess we'll pass. Again, Super Laser Blast. Sometimes they only play one of these. I suppose there is a possibility. But I think we can hold on to Ray even further. Like, I think our opponent does have the Super Laser Blast in hand. And they're trying to bait out, like, me trying to flood the board. But I think we're in a pretty solid spot to where we can kind of just avoid that for now. Devastator, huh? Get rid of a shield token. Interesting. So they play a Devastator. So we can shrink that and then kill it with the Restored Arc. So let's attack with Pike Sentinel. Or attack the Pike Sentinel. And then we can shrink down the Devastator, kill Devastator. And then I guess we pass. Again, we are kind of just outvaluing them. We have yet to draw our second and third Vigilances. And mind you, we only have 15 cards in the deck left. They're undoing their last action. Okay, so they're trying to resource something different. Sure. I'm looking for the Vigilances. And we can potentially double Vigilance. The fact that we haven't drawn it yet is kind of a little crazy. But our opponent also hasn't really drawn Vigilance themselves. So I suppose it's not too insane. It's attacking with Restored Arc. Make an opening. Sure. Let's play, I suppose, an Obi-Wan. Again, we can get down Ray here. But I want them to be forced to go ahead and play their Super Laser Blast, so they can't play Vigilance, so that we can get the advantage by Vigilance milling them. It's just unfortunate that we have yet to draw Vigilance. Relentless, huh? Okay, let's attack with Queel. And this is, I think, where we get down Array. Give it a shield token, huh? Let's attack it with Obi-Wan. I suppose we can actually just... Let's bottom the Restored Arc. Let's get down a Yoda. I could just get down everything here. And if they Super Laser Blast, what do we do? We get to draw a card. What can we bring back? What upgrade do we have? Nothing. Just play a Razor Crest, then... Oh, I should have put an experience token on the R2. Wow, there's 10 cards in the deck, and we have yet to draw. The Overwhelming Barrage. Okay, so they're going to Overwhelming Barrage. They're not going to be able to kill everything here. I'm playing around Super Laser Blast because I can. There might have been just, hey, I can go ahead and flip it way earlier, and I potentially could have won the game. But again, I was trying to play around Vigilance and potentially milling them out here and kind of getting the board state advantage so that I can just kind of close out the game because I have the Restore, which is pretty important. Now, they can't really kill Obi-Wan because that's just going to give us 2 additional power. They can kill the Razor Crest and kill like Queel and like Yoda or whatever. But we'll see what they decide to do here. Should have put an experience token on something for sure. Oh, they're gonna go ahead and kill the Obi-Wan. I should have put the experience on Yoda. There's a Vigilance. Okay, they're gonna Overwhelming Barrage a second time. So this is kind of the situation that I was talking about earlier, where it's like, okay, I'm just going to get in some damage, and then I'm hoping that they're going to be so forced to deal with the board that then eventually we can go ahead and flip our Ray and do some major work. And it looks like that's what we're going to be able to do. So we're going to give an experience to R2, and now they have to deal with 2 things. One, they're going to have to Super Laser Blast next turn. Otherwise, they just die, right? And the second thing is we're going to have Vigilance in hand and potentially a second Vigilance. Remember, the bottom 2 cards of our deck we know. So we're going to have Vigilance most likely. We have 6 cards. We have a 1 Vigilance left in those 6 cards. We're drawing 2. So it's pretty high chance that we'll be able to draw it. And what we can do here is flip over Ray, get Yoda down, Devotion up Ray, and do some work there. So let's go get Yoda down, get Queel down, put a Devotion on... Do I want to put a Devotion on Ray? Yeah, just get the extra heal. Attack. Put a experience token on Yoda. Sure, doesn't really matter, I don't think. And then what we're going to do is heal and mill. Because I think we'll actually be milling out at roughly the same time. Oh, of course, because they have a Relentless. Never mind. That was a mistake. Yeah, that I should have held off on the Vigilance is what I should have done. I should have played on this turn. All my thought process just completely ruined because I forgot that Relentless is on the board. There you go. That happens sometimes. Everything that I did, I would do again, except I would have saved my Vigilance for this turn because they're forced to Super Laser Blast most likely. And if they don't have an answer to the board, then we win with damage. And if they do, then we just Vigilance and we end up milling them out before we get milled out. So I think overall, waiting off on the Ray deploy worked out in this game. I don't really know. I mean, yes, they're going to get a Pike Sentinel. Yes, they can go out and kill, like, let's say Yoda here. But we have multiple lethal threats. And I just don't see them really getting through this. They're going to have 4 resources after Darth Vader. This is exactly what I was kind of talking about earlier, which was they just have too many things to deal with. And they're really relying on like a complete board wipe in order to kind of bring them back up to parity. And that's sometimes just playing a controlling deck. You kind of just have to slow down the game. Okay, they have a make an opening. Sure. We'll attack them for 2. And they got to heal a little bit, but then we get to finish them off with this array. Unless they have a 1 resource sentinel. I don't think there's a 1 resource sentinel. What can they use with 1 resource here? I don't know. I am honestly not sure. But GG. I think the big mistake, and this is something that really depends on kind of what you think the matchup is about. I wait for Ray Flip just because of the things that I've been saying throughout the game. There is a consideration where it's like, make them have it, make them have the super laser blast, use it. The only thing with that is it really lessens your tools to potentially win and kind of close out the game. And the reason I played it like that is because they started off with a vigilance and they already milled us a little bit. So we were actually behind on the mill plan. Not to mention we have Queel, but because we are drawing so many extra cards than they are, we're able to dig deeper in our deck. And because we're able to play multiple vigilances in a turn, whereas normally you're not getting to 12 resources, we could potentially kind of outplay them by milling out their deck around the same time we do. And because we have the restore, we can restore up. The big mistake was the fact that I played vigilance into relentless. Like, that just doesn't do anything, right? And the fact that they're rolling out relentless here means that they're trying to give something enough to where we have to deploy enough to kind of compete with it. But it's perhaps that they just run super laser blast, because some Kira greens do that. I personally play 2 to 3 just because I think the card is exceptionally powerful, but I believe Wu was only running 1, maybe two of them. So they may not even have had another super laser blast, or they could have just been at the bottom of the deck where our vigilances were, right? So very interesting matchup, I'd say. Nothing like too crazy. It was more of just like, okay, what do you think they have? What do we think we have? And all that manner of stuff. And I think a lot of different things could have happened differently if I had deployed Ray earlier, if maybe if I had deployed certain different things differently than I had. There's so many different things, as I said, that can go differently, but we're supposed to be fighting aggro decks, not this control nonsense, guys. Let's get to the next one. Okay, and we are into the next game. I don't know what it is, guys. Everyone just doesn't want to play the more aggro decks today. We're just playing double green Pope, we're playing Kira green, we're playing Han blue. To be fair, all of those I would consider top tier decks, okay? We did get that Grand Inquisitor game, so I might have to rename this video. I was going to name it like Hunting Down Aggro, but I might be saying like Trying to Hunt Down Aggro or something. Let's resource this Moisture Farmer and Devotion. As I said earlier, the cards that we're really looking for against Palpatine are potentially some early space threats to get in some early damage, or the ability to draw extra cards. The tricky thing about this one is our opponent ended up going... well, Colonel Yularen, so they're probably going to be following up with some sort of Sentinel this turn, which is going to be a little bit unfortunate for us. I'm going to attack in. I know I could get an experience token on Queel and actually go ahead and kill their Yularen without any repercussions, but they could be playing a Sentinel. Granted, there is a possibility that my opponent is trying to just get in the damage because they think that I will do that. And they may have just wanted to play a Sentinel to avoid that damage. But there's also, like, if they had a phase 3 Dark Trooper, then they probably don't want that just to die to Queel as well. So, I don't know. There's all sorts of things you could think about. But this ended up being pretty good because our Arc 170 outclasses their Consortium Star Viper anyways. So, well, awesome, right? Just awesome. Vigilance, well, could be okay in this matchup. Looks like they have a command, so they can go ahead and give some experience. If they're ramping, then they can give experience and then ramp. And then we can take down whatever they gave experience to. But they can't kill Queel. Yep, so let's go ahead and take down the Star Viper. Hello? Take down Star Viper. Hello? There we go. A little bit slow there. A little bit slow. So, yeah. If they're trying to ramp, they can't kill Queel. So we're just going to go ahead and attack in. Attack in for 2. Draw ourselves a Forces with Me. Attack in for 3. End up restoring 1. I'm not sure why they attacked, to be honest. We end up restoring the 2 damage anyways. I suppose they essentially got 1 additional damage onto our base. We can resource the Concord Dawn Interceptors. That's pretty much going to be a card that's going to be outclassed in every single scenario. Overwhelming Barrage. Okay, so they're going to try to, what, kill my guy. Sure. Let's go ahead and I think just give an experience token over to Queel. What this does is if they try to attack Queel, then their Yularen dies and we can just get down a Kanan. So then we start the next turn. The board's clear, but we got a Kanan. They could defeat it to deal damage to Kanan. I think that's what they're considering because of the fact that their Yularen's going to die anyways. Devotion could go in and be resourced. We have to be careful here. They could have like a Darth Vader, and if they do, that'd be pretty brutal because it just kills my Kanan and they get a throne drop, and we probably lost the game. There's not a whole lot that we can do, to be honest. As I said, this matchup's pretty hard. And they've had a good start. Our previous opponent didn't have any commands, so that was, well, not that great from them. So here's what's interesting. I think what they're going to be trying to do is defeat the Super Laser Technician to deal a damage to Kanan to steal it. So I think what I'm going to do is forces with me and attack in to their base just for a decent chunk of damage. And protect it from the 1 damage from Palpatine. We could then follow up with Restored Arc, and then flip Rey, and then attack in to give an experience token over to Restored Arc. We have a lot of different options. So they're going to go ahead and do exactly as I said, get rid of the shield off Kanan. They're going to claim initiative, and we're just going to go all in. There is some possibility that this ends up being a little bit weak for us because they could be playing like an off-color Super Laser Blast in the following turn. They could have all manner of different options here, but I think that was the correct play because if you think about what would have happened there, let's say we attack with Kanan and try to get down like an Obi-Wan there. Well, they steal Kanan and they have it for the next turn, and we didn't get in that big chunk of damage, comparatively 2 less damage. And they have now a Restorer, and they deploy Palpatine so they can start getting more presence out. They may have actually just wanted to deploy Palpatine anyways, just to get in for some damage. I'm not sure, but they're on 9 resources, so they can't get down like a Devastator. The most threatening card, what would be the most threatening card? Reinforcement Walker wouldn't be crazy scary. Piet, huh? To me, that signifies that they are trying to get some sort of vehicle down and give it ambush. The question is, what do I want to do with that information? Because they can defeat it to steal Kanan. I think what I would like to do here is forces with me, attack in with Rey, kill the unit so they can't defeat it with Palpatine, and steal one of my units. Right now, at least. They'd have to play another unit to go ahead and do so. So then a Palpatine's return back the Piet, huh? Okay, so we're going to Kanan attack in for 6 here. So now they can defeat it to steal Kanan if they want. Looks like they're not going to do so, and I will deploy Yoda. I know they could have a Super Laser Blast off color because some people do play that, but if they Super Laser Blast, then they don't have an ability to kind of steal a unit, so we can just get down something like a Chewbacca or something and then start getting in some damage. But again, they have a Piet, so they could be preparing like a Super Laser Blast or a Reinforcement Walker ambush. They could be, Devastator ambush. So there's the Reinforcement Walker ambush. They can kill Yoda. They can heal a ton. And they're going to kill Yoda. Okay, so we're going to make myself draw. We're going to just get in for 6. I'm a little bit surprised they didn't try to get rid of something or hit something else, but, killing a small unit, it is what it is. Because now they're down to 2 resources. They don't have a 2-resource Sentinel, I don't think. And they're probably going to try to deal a damage to the Restored Arc, but then we attack with it, and then we just attack with Rey. I think this is one of those games where definitely they probably... those are 2 contradicting statements, right? But I think they probably should have deployed Palpatine and just use it as a body, because we've been able to play around the damaged ability here for Palpatine. And I think they realized the only option they have is to try to defeat or to ping the Arc 170, have us attack with Ray, and then steal the Arc 170. But even if we do that, we still have Kanan and Ray on the battlefield. So I don't even know if that would have done anything realistically. They have a Crumb, we attack in for 5 with Ray, and that is going to be GG. So close game for sure. This is a tough matchup, as I said, but we ended up pulling out both of them. If our opponent had a Maul or a Darth Vader or something like that, I think the game would have been a lot different. They didn't have a Devastator for 10 resources. They didn't have a Reinforcement Walker coming down. So they didn't have a resupply or like multiple things in the early game. Their ramp was a little bit later. So not an ideal draw from the double green Palp player or from the previous one for that matter. So I think we got a little bit lucky, but also we ended up getting there. And where are my aggro players? Please. Let's go on to the next one. All right, guys. Last matchup. We got ourselves a Boba Yellow. Not the aggro deck that I was searching for, but an aggro deck that I will take. A little bit more on the more disruptive aggro side. And hopefully we'll even get in a game, because sometimes, you know, you join these lobbies and it takes forever and then it turns out they're not there or whatever. But it looks like our opponent is here. So I am very happy about that. And we have a decent hand here. I don't think Devotion is really what we're looking for in this particular matchup. Devotion is more direct damage based. I think I'm just going to resource both of them. It's also pretty bad against Waylays. And we're just going to get down a Queel. Queel is totally fine in this matchup. They could have Waylay. They could have Shoot First to kill Queel. Heck, they could even just attack it with like Surprise Strike or whatever. All of which would be pretty solid for them. Looks like they have a Bodhi. They get rid of our takedown. That's totally fine. We can go ahead and give an experience token, or we could just get down a Village Protectors. I want to get down a Village Protectors. This essentially trades with the shield token on Crafty Smuggler, and now we get to kill Crafty Smuggler and draw a card. Which is pretty nice. And I know I could have taken initiative here. Oh, they said, I love your videos. Well, thank you, good sir. Thank you for watching. I know I could have taken initiative and put an experience token on my Village Protectors or whatnot. But it's very possible they could have like a Zuckuss, or not a Zuckuss, a Forlom, or a Waylay, or whatever to disrupt that plan. So I'm not really all that excited about that. I'm just going to actually attack their base to draw a card here, see what I end up drawing. They play a Lurking TIE Phantom, huh? Okay, in that case, I will just get down a Kanan. They could have a Cantina Bouncer and kind of bounce anything here on my board. I think just getting down a Kanan and getting some value going there is going to be pretty nice. Obi-Wan, don't really want a ton of expensive stuff here, so what are they going to do? Buff unit and exhaust units, huh? Okay, seems reasonable to me. They could go with a double cunning play, by the way. They're going to buff up that Lurking TIE Phantom, which is fine. We're going to get down a Restored Arc, which is going to be able to kill the Lurking TIE Phantom, and then we're going to be able to play a Yoda. But remember, they're going to be able to get in for a total of 11, plus if they decide to flip Boba. So that's going to be 15 total points of damage. And remember, they could also play something that costs, well, 3 resources afterwards, which is going to be pretty scary. So let's see what they decide to do. Looks like they're just going to ignore, go straight for the base, which I think is a great plan. Put the onus on me to kind of deal with all of your units. Let's go to resource this Sugi. We have a Sentinel option in Obi-Wan, and we're just going to start off by dealing with a 4-powered attacker. They are probably going to go ahead and just attack with Bodhi, is my guess, but we'll see. We can't get down Luke this turn, so that's pretty important to realize. Looks like they have a Forlom. They're going to ambush, probably kill Yoda here, make myself draw a card. Kind of interesting they decided to go this direction. I think here I would like to just kill the Bodhi with Queel. We are looking to go later on in the game. That is what we're looking to do. Let's just go ahead and flip over a Ray and see what they end up having. They have a Bodhi. They could take away my Vigilance or fell the dragon. Doesn't really matter because we will just use a combination of Kanan plus Ray to go ahead and kill off the Boba Fett. And now we'll just get down an Obi-Wan. I didn't want to lead with Obi-Wan. I know it could Sentinel prevent the damage, but I wanted to see what my opponent's going to do because they could have been sitting on a Waylay, and if we use all of our resources, they just guarantee get a great Waylay, and it's really unfortunate for us. But this way, we kind of set up for a pretty nice situation. They can Cantina Bouncer, but now see what ends up happening is we just replay the Obi-Wan, and they could have another Waylay, But if they do, that's okay, because all we have to do is go ahead and replay our Obi-Wan. We're gonna go ahead and kill off the I misclicked there. I was for some reason I didn't misclick. Sorry, that's not what I meant to say. I didn't think that was going to kill, because I did the math wrong in my head for some reason. I would have attacked the base with Rey just to keep up the restores, but this ends up working out okay. Ended up deploying a lot of threats to the board, or getting another threat into the board, having the Sentinel still up. It really makes it difficult for my opponent to really do much with this kind of on board. But here what we could do is just play Luke, or we could Vigilance. And I do like Vigilance here. We defeat and we can shield. What do we want to do here? I suppose I could just attack in and kill Bodhi. And we discarded just a Hotshot Blaster here. Attack in, kill the Restored Arc. But now we get to go ahead and play Luke and kill their Cantina Bouncer. And then we get to go ahead and put an experience token on my Rey. And they're left with double 7th Fleet. And we can kind of just start racing them, I think. Takedown looks great here. It can kill any of their units. We also have a Vigilance to kill any of their units. We also have a Fel the Dragon to kill like a Fet's Fire Spray that comes down. I think this game's a pretty much wrap up, just because of all the restore that we've got going on. They resource something, which I'm a little bit surprised about. Not sure what in double yellow Boba you're looking to resource at 8 resources already. Perhaps they have some smuggle options, but I'm not sure. Let's just go Vigilance. Let's heal, defeat, and we're going to defeat the shielded one, of course. And again, we have massive board presence right now. So all we really have to do is kind of disrupt my opponent, because we have so much restore and we have so much higher value units here at the end of the game. They have a Viper Probe Droid. I will go ahead and kill that as well. Forces with me looks great. I can go ahead and play a unit, or I can just take down the 7th Fleet Defender. It's safest just to take down the 7th Fleet Defender. Not that we are in any way close to losing, okay? We could play a Kanan and be totally fine, put an experience token on our R2 and be totally fine. It's just that this is going to be, I mean, I don't even know what sequence could they play. Double Cunning here doesn't do anything, because we can just take down the thing after they Cunning. If they play like a Fet's Fire Spray, we Fel the Dragon. But yeah, pretty nice. I suppose I'll just try to get the game ended with quickly. I was going to say I'll just play the Kanan out, but because our opponent was very, very awesome. Very solid game. They said they bricked after the start. They ended up going, turn 1 Crafty Smuggler, turn 2 Bodhi, which is a great start, especially against our deck, because we have a lot of events to get rid of. But then they went turn 3 Lurking TIE Phantom, which is really not like that great of a card. Even though we have a lot of defeat effects, it's really gets villainy, because they have Power of the Dark Sides, and they have things like Avenger, and we are actually just playing a lot of space units like the Arc 170 that ended up dealing with it. We also have the Concord Dawn Interceptors, which ends up dealing with it. So it's just not a great card against this specific style of control. So they also wasted a resource on that moment. The turn that they flip Boba, you could see how devastating Boba can be, though. They end up just slamming into us for 15 points of damage. We couldn't really do anything because they had a Cunning. If they had potentially a better follow-up play after that, like a Fet's Fire Spray, maybe we would have been struggling, because they would have been able to bash us more and more. But they didn't really have a great follow-up after that as well. And as they said, they kind of bricked at a certain point. But you can kind of see how well the deck does against more aggro-focused decks. We just have a ton of restore. We're able to outvalue you as you get into the mid to late game against the aggro decks. And because of the restore, it gives you so much time. And it kind of forces your opponent to do what the opponent doesn't want to do, which is kill your units, right? In some cases, it's not a big deal. Like if they play a 4-Lom, they're like, oh, well, I wasn't going to attack with 4-Lom this turn anyways. 4-Lom is one of the best cards in this matchup, because it kills the Yodas, it kills the Queels, it hits the shield off the Village Protectors, it does so much in this matchup with the early units. After which, that's where you really want something like a Zuckuss and things like that to follow up. But, you know, as I said, if that Lurking Tie Phantom ended up being a Forlom, I think we would have been in a little bit more trouble. Anyways, that's going to be the last game we're going to talk about, guys. Let's wrap up with Ray Blue and see what we've learned today. What did we learn with Ray Blue? Well, I will be honest. If this was a video to prove to you all, like, yeah, Ray Blue is very good, it did a great job. We tuned the deck into what I would consider a version that's a little bit better against, like, more aggro-centric matchups. Again, tuning the numbers a little bit, adding Devotion, which ends up being extremely powerful in certain matchups, especially Sabine Green and those types of aggro decks. And yet, we still pulled out wins against Han Blue, Kira Green, Double Green Palpatine, all of which are vastly different than the Sabine Greens of the world. The decks that we would really struggle against are the decks that are really going even further into control. Bosk Blues, for example. The Afro Blue can be pretty tricky. If the Kira Green player ended up throwing more Vigilances, that could have potentially been a little bit tricky. We also struggle a good amount of the time against the double green ramp decks if our opponent starts to draw pretty well, because takedowns and whatnot are not that great. But one thing you'll notice about the list I'm playing here is that I go full 3 of Fell the Dragon. Some lists do, some lists don't. But even in the aggro matchups, one of the big things is you really want a catch-all answer for their late game threats. And I feel like with Sabine Green and Boba Yellow both having a very prominent threat that they're looking to draw every single game with 5 or more power, that being Podameron, Wrecker, that's Fire Spray, Fell the Dragon has infinite value in every matchup, assuming you do have one of those cards that you really want to get rid of. And, well, you do, so that's pretty important. Other than that, guys, that's what we learned. No, not that many aggro decks we're fighting today. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all for the next one.